From sprinkling salt to sprinkling scandals, Salt Bae's story is one of the most bizarre rises and falls in modern pop culture. Just a few years ago, Nusret Gökçe was hailed as the golden boy of food entertainment, carving steaks with a dramatic flourish and sprinkling salt in a way that made the entire internet stop and stare. His restaurants became playgrounds for the rich and famous, and he positioned himself not just as a chef, but as a global icon of luxury dining. But behind the glittering steaks and viral fame was a darker truth, one built on arrogance, scandal, and controversy that would eventually come crashing down. How did a humble butcher from Turkey turn into one of the internet's biggest sensations, only to spiral into lawsuits, humiliation, and global ridicule? And more importantly, was his empire ever about food at all, or was it always about the performance? That's the question that haunts Salt Bae's legacy. And today, we're digging into the meteoric rise, the scandals that shocked the world, and the fall of a man who sprinkled salt on his own downfall. Long before the gold stakes and billion-dollar headlines, Nusret's story began in poverty. Born in a small Turkish village, he dropped out of school at a young age and worked grueling 13-hour shifts in a butcher shop just to help feed his family. His future looked bleak, but Nusret wasn't content to stay stuck cutting meat in obscurity. With nothing but determination, he borrowed $3,400, a sum that could have buried him in debt if he failed, and traveled abroad to train as a chef. When he returned to Istanbul, he opened a modest 8-table restaurant. At first, it was nothing more than a local curiosity, far from the global empire it would become. But fate intervened. Billionaire Ferit Sahank spotted not just a talented chef, but a shrewd businessman. With Sahank's backing, Nusret's brand expanded rapidly across the Middle East. Then came January 7th, 2017, the day that would change everything. Video of Nusret slicing meat and flicking salt down his forearm went viral, birthing Salt Bae, a meme that would spread across the globe. Overnight, this humble butcher became a household name. Suddenly, he wasn't just cooking steaks, he was a cultural phenomenon. Salt Bae didn't just ride the wave of fame, he built an empire out of it. Capitalizing on his viral moment, he launched restaurants in New York, London, and Dubai, each dripping with opulence. But these weren't ordinary steakhouses. They were temples of excess, where a single steak covered in edible gold could cost thousands of dollars. Diners didn't come for the flavor. They came for the performance. They came to watch him slice meat with exaggerated flair, sprinkle salt like a magician casting a spell, and pose as if he had invented steak itself. And the celebrities followed. Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham, Leonardo DiCaprio, Steve Harvey. Everyone wanted to be seen with Salt Bae. For a time, it looked like nothing could stop him. He was photographed with world leaders, rubbed shoulders with A-listers, and flooded his social media with 6-figure bills, flaunting them like trophies. His restaurants weren't about food anymore. They were about status. And as long as the world was watching, Salt Bae seemed untouchable. But the higher you rise on hype, the harder the fall when people finally look past the glitter and see what's really underneath. For Salt Bae, the beginning of the end came on the biggest stage in sports, the FIFA World Cup final in 2022. After Argentina's historic victory against France, the field belonged to the players, their glory, their triumph, their moment. But Salt Bae forced his way into the spotlight. He grabbed Lionel Messi, pestering him for a photo, while Messi looked visibly uncomfortable. Then, in a move that crossed every line, Salt Bae snatched the World Cup trophy itself, posing with it as if he were part of the winning team. Millions around the globe watched in disbelief. Social media erupted. This wasn't just cringe, it was disrespect of the highest order. Fans slammed him as shameless. FIFA launched an investigation and issued a ban that barred him from all official events. And his humiliation didn't stop there. At the 2023 Champions League final, he was escorted off the field like an unwanted intruder, jeered at by the internet. For someone who built his fame on being everywhere, suddenly the doors were slamming shut. What was once a meme had now become a global embarrassment, and that viral fame that had made him, it was starting to break him. As Salt Bae's public image unraveled, so did his restaurant empire. In the US, locations began shutting down one by one. Las Vegas in January, Dallas by the end of the month, and Beverly Hills in June 2025. Only two remained, Miami and New York. Critics weren't surprised. His New York burger joint was infamously branded one of the city's worst restaurants, with reviews mocking the tough, flavorless meat. Across the Atlantic, his London steakhouse scraped a dismal 2-star rating on TripAdvisor, with diners calling it an insult to humanity. The food, they said, was bland, the service careless, and the prices outrageous. Yet Salt Bae seemed oblivious. He flaunted massive checks online, one totaling $140,000, another $150,000. Money comes, money goes, he bragged. While the world was battling inflation and recession, what once looked glamorous now felt grotesque. The gold leaf steaks that had stunned Instagram were exposed as tasteless gimmicks, gold sheets you could buy on Amazon for $10. His empire, once held up by celebrity hype and viral moments, was crumbling under the weight of bad reviews, public anger, and his own ego. But the cracks in Salt Bae's empire weren't just about bad food. Behind the spectacle were real people paying the price. In 2018, a fiery stunt at one of his restaurants went horribly wrong, injuring 4 diners, including a young model who suffered third-degree burns across much of her body. Her career and her life were permanently changed. Salt Bae, silent. No apology, no accountability. That same year, he hosted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro for a lavish meal while the country's citizens were starving in a food crisis. Videos of the dinner spread online, sparking outrage and protests outside his Miami and New York restaurants. Even U.S. senators condemned him. But Salt Bae doubled down, posting a bizarre tribute to Fidel Castro right before opening a restaurant in Miami, home to thousands of Cuban exiles. His tone-deaf actions weren't accidents. They were patterns. Customers were threatened with police over billing disputes, employees complained of exploitation, and time after time, he chose spectacle over people. The more he chased fame, the more he revealed just how out of touch he had become. If the public scandals weren't enough, the behind-the-scenes reality was even worse. An investigation by Business Insider in 2023 revealed a toxic empire built on fear, exploitation, and control. Former employees described Salt Bae as obsessed with his image to the point of pathology, caring only about Instagram fame. Workers claimed they were forced to sleep in restaurants without overtime pay, made to create fake lines outside to make the place look booked, and docked money for the smallest mistakes. Lawsuits piled up. In New York, 4 employees won a $230,000 settlement after accusing him of withholding tips. Another class action suit cost him $300,000 more. Stories spread of waiters losing hundreds in tips because celebrity guests didn't pay, while others were punished for delivering the wrong cut of meat. Customers weren't spared either. Cheap cuts sold as premium, leftover wine reused, even steaks falsely labeled as halal. The picture was clear. This wasn't just bad management. It was an empire built on exploitation, where profit and performance mattered more than integrity, food, or people. By 2025, the empire that once dazzled the world was collapsing like a house of cards. His U.S. presence had all but vanished. Profits in London and Dubai plummeted, And social media, once his kingdom, was bleeding followers. The world had moved on. Salt Bae didn't fall because he lacked talent. He fell because he mistook a viral meme for a career. He confused attention for admiration and arrogance for legacy. He believed the spectacle was enough, but without substance, the spectacle eventually becomes a joke. His story could have been different. With patience and humility, he might have become a culinary icon like Gordon Ramsay, someone remembered for craft instead of controversy. Instead, Salt Bae chose the quick fame, the viral clip, the gold leaf steak that looked good on Instagram, but tasted of nothing. And in chasing the spotlight so desperately, he became the punchline. Salt Bae's rise was meteoric, but his fall is a reminder. Fame, built on flash, fades fast, and once the glitter's gone, all that's left is the mess it covered up.